encourage fight back, and then they can be accused of being violent and wrong thinking. There is a very different approach to the pro-Palestinian marches, the pro-Hamas marches, than there is to the pro-freedom of speech marches. They're much more aggressively policed. I think mainly because the police are not frightened of our own people, because our own people actually don't behave that badly. They are frightened of other people. When you had the question marks being raised by Keir Starmer about whether we should support the attack on Iran, his thinking was, well, we might get domestic attacks at home, which is why we can't support it abroad. Hold on. We are frightened of terror cells in our country, so we will. That is pusillanimous. That is weak. That is cowardly, and it is dishonourable. And for us to judge our international behaviour and how we act on the world stage, because we're frightened of a couple of wazzocks in this country, we should be prosecuting those people with all the force that security forces can have. And can we concentrate on them rather than some people who are upset about freedom of speech in this country? Let's get our internal security nailing down Islamist terrorist threats in this country. Thank you very much. Which there are, by the way. I mean, there's been 20 Iranian groups who've been picked up in the last few years.
Going back to the Southport stabbings, then we saw unrest across the country. Do you think we could see civil unrest again?
Yes, but hopefully, I hope not. Obviously, but it only takes a spark, and I think the government are terrified of it. The way that they behaved so fast. The only efficient thing they've done, actually, since being elected is locking people up for being rude on Facebook. Everything else they've done has been deeply inefficient. But those disturbances, look, rioting's not good. Chucking Molotov cocktails at places where people live is not good. It really isn't. Even attacking mosques and things is not good. It shouldn't be. It is not something one can approve of at all. But it shows. Do you remember when Mark Duggan was shot by the police and there were the riots in London?
Yeah.
Instantly, all the great and the good were worried about the black community. Why are you so upset? What can we do to help? Ping pong bats were no doubt sent to every street. Youth clubs were reopened. I don't know how a youth club stops a riot, frankly, but it seems to be the catch-all. Well, we've got problems. We build a youth club. It just seems a very odd thing to do. But the point is the great and the good were actually interested in why people were so upset. In the case of Southport, it was the opposite. It was, we're worried about the people they're upset with, not why they're upset in the first place. They don't care. They do not care about the interests and fears and worries of particularly the white working class of this country. I'm sorry to say. They hold them in contempt. They hold them in fear. The Labour Party despises the people who used to vote for it. And so to them, rather than learning from the problem, and if you see that they've now set up an inquiry and they're going to have a study into why were people upset, and put amongst on that board, you've got people like Caroline Lucas. Now, the former leader of the Green Party is going to be one of the people deciding why these people are upset. I doubt a single person on any of those demonstrations has ever voted Green. I just don't think it's their main way of being. And so you've now got a great and the good inquiry made up of mostly of people who despise the people they're trying to have some sympathy for. Again, you could get Grok to write this. Type in the names of the people on the report and say, "Dear Grok, write a 10,000-word report on why there were riots using the attitudes of the people on this list as your guide." I think it would take 10 minutes and it would be just as accurate and just as useful as anything they're going to produce in 2 years. And it's going to probably it'll cost a couple of quid in energy costs rather than the countless millions in reportage. Because we know what they're going to say. Intractable problems.
So we've got almost 1,000 watching live with Gawain Towler. If you want to follow him on X, I'll put the link in the live chat. If you've got any questions for him, please get them in now. And if we've got more years of Starmer then, Gawain, aren't we just going to end up with a homogenized worker ant society? And it's we're going to lose our British identity?
I think, honestly, I think our British identity is a bit deeper than four more years of Labour. 10 years of Labour is problematic, but it ain't skin deep, this. There is something much deeper about it than many in the authority would have us say. You can't legislate people into idiocy. You can try, but you can't do it. No, But that being said, the threat to so much of what we hold dear, you might, and your audience may think that this is slightly esoteric and childish on my part, but I was particularly upset by the fact that the House of Commons Modernisation Committee has decided in its wisdom that we've got to change the names of everything in Parliament. So therefore, they're going to change the name of a bill and an early day motion and this and that and the other. The great sort of Norman French call, the king has assented. It's a le roi qui volonte or something. Now, this is why would I care about what's small fry? I care because if it works and they're saying, oh, it's too complicated for thick people to understand. No, it's not. The thick people are interested in politics or interested in legislation, and if they get to vote, I mean, do we allow thick people to vote? Oh, yes, we do, because they have every right to, and they're just as many rights, and they should, as the most well-respected lefty Oxford professor. And we have one individual, one adult, one vote in this country, and rightly. But I'm very upset about this because one, it assumes that everybody's stupid, and they aren't. Two, it's the dumbing down of language, the dumbing down of our culture, the dumbing down of our tradition. And three, once you've made the change, they keep on making more changes. It has to change every couple of years because fashions change, words change. So you stick with the word that means the word, or you change it to something else that 2 years later you need to change it again. Look at the way the Bible has changed. Everybody used the Book of Common Prayer. Everybody used the King James Version. And then they started to translate it for accessibility, translate it to make it easier. Has it resulted in more people going to church? No, the opposite. You take away the mystery and the sanctity of things, and it doesn't bring people to, it drives people away. If you alter the immutable about our culture and our traditions, it doesn't make it more accessible, it makes it dull and uninteresting. And so there will be a move to get the judges must stop wearing their wigs and wigs and stuff like that. No, keep it. Keep the interesting, keep the bizarre, keep the strange. As I put it this way, if I'm right, and I may be wrong about the second one, but we're about 98.5% the same genetically as a chimpanzee. I think we're about 60% the same genetically as a lump of wood. But it is not the 98.5% that is interesting. What is interesting is the 1.5% that makes us different. And it is the same with culture. And it is the same with humanity. We are 99.9%, 99.5% same as the French. But by God, doesn't the difference make? Isn't that 0.5% important? I mean, it really is. And the Scots would say the same about the English. Then the Welsh would say the same about the English. And rightly so. They should be proud of who they are and their culture, their music, their language, their traditions, their literature. We share so much, but it's the little differences that make so much difference. And it's why we are proud of things. Am I proud that Britain believes in democracy? Yes, but so does everybody in the liberal West. Freedom of speech? Yes, formally, everybody believes in it. And am I proud of being tolerant? Am I proud of this, that, yeah? Yes, but everybody is. Everybody is. When you're asked, we must teach Britishness, what the devil do they mean by that? And then you're told, It means that you believe in tolerance. Oh, whoopee shit. Really? But no, it's much deeper than that. It's much more important than that. And it is the eccentricities. There's a lovely quote from John Stuart Mill about eccentricity and why it's so dashed important to the future of our country. If I reach over there, I might be able to find it for you. It's a cracking quote. But, hold on.
While he's reaching, folks, Gawain's X, the link for his X is in the description box. We're going to have a John Stuart Mill quote now coming up.
Yeah. It's a superb comment. Here we go. John Stuart Mill, it is desirable that people should be eccentric. Eccentric, he went on, has always abounded where and when strength of character has abounded, and the amount of eccentricity in a society has generally been proportional to the amount of genius, mental vigor, and moral courage which it has contained. If we try and make everybody the same, we drive out decency, we drive out courage, we drive out innovation. And that's our strength, that's our superpower as a nation. And if we get rid of it, and that is, I think, the homogenization, what you were talking about, and this is why I'm answering using that. The homogenization you're talking about drives everything of value. We may as well be French or German or Dutch. Now, I've got no problem with the French and Germans and Dutch in their countries, running their own show, being who they are, making some stinky cheese and decent beer. Fine. But I like here. And this is our special place, and what we give the world, and what we have shown the world with our law, with our language, with the most equitable empire they've ever seen. Yes, we excelled at business and did very well in the slave trade, and then we excelled at being somewhat more moral and did away with the slave trade with our blood and treasure. Every society in history had slavery. We're the only society that decided to stop it. So that's it's a good thing, by the way.
You got a question from P. P wants to know, why are we not using the military, the navy, on the coast with France to repel the illegals?
Because right now because of our membership of the ECHR, we can't. It would be, you can imagine, right? Can't you? Okay, so a dinghy full of young men comes across, crosses the line. We send a naval cutter out, a patrol boat out. They jump in the water, some of them drown. What would happen to those naval ratings? Straight to court, because we need to have the political will first. We cannot do things like the turn them around without having that political will. And that political will requires us to leave things like the ECHR. It requires us to deal with that sort of rubbish. So right now, the legal situation is such that to do so would result in naval ratings being sent to jail. Same with the sort of when you look at the guys who are being 30 years later in Northern Ireland, they did what they believed was the right thing, and 30 years later they're in front of the beak and having their reputations challenged. They were soldiers in the front line, doing what they thought is split-second decisions, and they're now being taken to court. It's a disgrace. We have to back and support these people. But if we were to send the Navy out right now, it wouldn't be the migrants in prison. It would be the naval ratings. So it requires a political class who are prepared to back our armed forces and support them legally, morally, and physically. We don't have it yet.
You got a question from Reese. What do you think of the one-in, one-out scheme recently put to France by Starmer?
Well, I would send Starmer to France, and I'm sure there's a couple of very nice French people that I had back. It's fatuous. One in, one out? Who are we taking? Who are we sending back? It would become a merry-go-round of crooks. Oh, this is a rapist. We'll send him over there. The French go, yeah, you can have one of our rapists, and it just goes around. It's a joke. No. Forget it. It is an absolute farce. It doesn't make any sense. and just know talk about a sticking plaster on a sucking chest wound. It just would make no impact whatsoever. And it's not as if we've not been chucking great chunks of millions at the French to do something about it. There was the other week where some journalist was on the beach watching this, and there was a bloke on crutches who managed to get down the beach and into a dinghy, and the French police were there. They couldn't even catch a bloke on crutches going down a shingle beach. It wasn't like he was going down a metal road. He was going down a shingle beach, and the French police didn't catch him.
Ray J wants to know, can Starmer survive until the next election?
He can. He's just about tomorrow. He will weather this welfare storm. Is he heavily damaged? Yes. But I don't think the question is whether Starmer can survive. The question, which is possibly not. But I don't think the Labour are that ruthless. But it's not a question of that. Just like under the Tories, because they have a massive majority, they can change prime minister as often as they want. Constitutionally, you can't get rid of them while they have a majority and they win votes in the House. And so we might lose Starmer, but who would we have instead? Rachel? Ange? You get Starmer, what do you got? You name that front bench. I couldn't play front bench bingo, and I'm a political anorak. I could tell you the front benches of both parties from 25 years ago, because there were people, men and women of substance. Today, I'd be hard pressed to name 5 on the Tory front bench and 7 in the government. And I work in politics. I'm a political geek. I spend my day thinking about this stuff, and I don't know who they are. And if I don't know who they are, the cut through amongst the general public. Who's Mel Stride? Oh, Shadow Chancellor, one of the most important people in Britain. Nobody knows his name. When he was one of the leadership candidates in the Tory leadership last year, and Lord Ashcroft did some focus groups, and the thing that came up about Mel Stride, who's she? It's a he. And this was Tory members. He was asking Tory members who this person was, and they got their sex wrong. That's now the Shadow Chancellor.
You've got a question from SW. Why are civil servants running governments?
Because it's hard. Because the job is complicated. Because ministers are hard pushed and civil servants stay. Ministers get reshuffled. It seems to be a rule that you don't send a minister to a job that they actually understand. Somebody who spent their life as a farmer is told to go and do medicine. You become the health secretary, but I know about agriculture. Yeah. But the point is, if you know about agriculture, you don't want them in the agriculture department because they might have ideas. As soon as they've been there for 2 years, they might have ideas. So you reshuffle them out. And the civil service stay there. They are permanent. Oh, don't worry about minister. We'll run it. You run along. Here, have your red box and stuff it full of rubbish. Minister, you've got to look at these bits of paper while decisions are being made elsewhere. The civil service run the show far more. And it's a common. There are good ministers, by the way, and they've been on both sides, of course. And it's wrong to dismiss them all. It really is. Who go in and say, no, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make changes. But it's notable that they're often, then you have a civil servant going, oh, but they bullied me because they were angry because I couldn't do my job. Well, yeah. People are elected because the country wants them to do stuff. And if they turn up in their ministerial department and the civil service says, oh, I'm sorry, sir, I can't do that. No, I'm working from home that year. Then they get annoyed to get on with the job. We've been elected to do this and it's your time to do it. Oh, he's bullied me. He got angry. Yeah. Yes, we are angry. We're angry at the failures of the establishment and the technocratic bureaucracy. We are really angry. So step up. But they have so much control because they're very hard to fire. Very easy to fire a politician. You vote them out.
So Reese is asking for your thoughts on Make a Stand and Habib.
Make a Stand, I'm not sure about. Ben, I know Ben very well. Ben offered me a job 2 days after I was fired by Reform. I thanked him very much. He's a friend. I worked with him in the Wellingborough by-election last year very closely for 6 weeks. I've known him since 2019. I think that when he offered the job, I turned it down and thanked him, but I'm not going to spend my time attacking Reform. I don't see the purpose and I don't see it valuable. I think the creation of this new political party, I believe today, Vanguard, no. Vacant, no. Advance, no. Advance? Something like that. I'm sorry, Ben. It's a waste of time, a waste of effort, a waste of people's priorities. Ben has many, many talents, but he has, I think bitterness has got the better of him. I'm sorry to say. We only have one shot at this. As you were saying about the 10, if you have 4 years more years of Starmer, 4 more years of this Labour, that's bad enough. Another 5 years on top, because the Tories ain't coming back. They're a busted flush. So Reform and Farage and the team around him, that's the chance. That's the opportunity we've got. Now, nobody says we're perfect. We aren't. Absolutely not perfect at all. We have our failings. We will have failings. We will make mistakes. Of course we will. But what you have there is people who actually believe in this country and wish to make the changes, who will come in and look at the civil service and go through it like a fresh dose of salt, because we will have the support of the country behind us and we will use that. The other thing is you don't have a bunch of politicians arriving who spent 20 years trying to get elected. Most of them are people who've spent 10 months trying to get elected. The mood is such. So you don't have that cynicism. By the time most people get into Westminster, get elected, they are broken by climbing up the greasy pole. Our lot arriving fresh-faced, bushy-tailed, and so right, time to work. We've got a mandate, and so in answer to Ray J's question that's just popped up, what can we do? Well, we're working on that. By the way, we're working very hard. Delivery is as important as policy. There are some very key important policies that will make a massive difference to the country. Bill, immigration, diversity, inclusion, free speech, net zero, and a couple of others. But what is hardest is going to be how to deliver that. So a lot of the effort that would normally be going into policy development is going to go into delivery and how to. How do you get things through a House of Lords that hates you? How do you get these things through with the judicial review process? How do you change that? How do you do the Quango state? How do you deal with the civil service unions? How do you do that? Is the focus of so much of the intellectual effort that's going on behind the scenes at Reform, as it should be, because we recognise that is delivery is going to be far harder than getting elected. And if we fail, we are almost. And we feel the responsibility is massive, but we are almost the last throw of the democratic dice, because everybody's given up on the Tories. They're giving up on Labour. They're going to give us a chance. If you listen to the focus groups that being, no, we don't think Farage is perfect, but maybe it's his turn. Maybe it's his chance because the rest are rubbish. But if we fail to deliver, then where do Democrats go? And we already have opinion polls saying the under 35s, upwards of 25% want to see a dictator. Well, I don't. I really don't. So it is absolutely beholden on Reform, not just to win, but to deliver having won.
What about lobbyists?
Lobbyists have their place. I work in public affairs now. I talk to business and I listen to business. When we have policy development, I want us to talk to people who know the field better than we do. We don't pretend to know everything. Now, I don't think I'm not somebody who will help a company X change policy Y, but I will introduce them to people who are involved in policy development, because we understand we've only got so many people. On energy, I don't know everything, and by a long shot, I'm happy to. I'd even talk to El Vince, at least to find out what he was up to. But I think we should talk to everybody, employers, people who actually get out there. We don't know everything, and so lobbyist is a very big concept. It sounds like everybody who's a lobbyist is corrupt. That isn't true. I think that big business uses regulation and loves regulation. Big business loves regulation because it crowds out small business. It crowds out competition, which is why we are very in favor of small business. We are very in favor when it comes to government contracts, local government contracts, to have those contracts as close to the place as possible, so that there is greater competition, greater innovation. Innovation doesn't come from the super big companies. It comes from small companies that are then stamped on and stolen from, or bought out by the big companies. Regulation. Multinational companies loved the EU because you had massive regulatory burden that crowded out innovation and competition. So that it's just a different approach. We are very much bottom up, not top down.
Gawain, we're almost at the hour. We appreciate you spending time with us. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion to the viewers?
No, I just enjoyed it. I hope it was reasonably comprehensible. I don't think I said anything untoward. And enjoy the rest of the weather. Yeah, I've got to dress in black tie now. I'm going to melt. I'm going to lose more weight than Lewis Hamilton and Monza. But it's been fun. Thank you very much, Shaun. Appreciate it. Follow up at some point if it's interesting.
Absolutely fascinating, and enjoy your event, and don't go bumping into Douglas Murray, and take care, my friend. Cheers.
All right.
All right. Thanks. Thank you for all your questions, viewers. And like I said, we've got Gawain's X link if you want to reach out to him, or if you want to follow him over there in the description box if you're watching this on replay. I'll also put it in the live chat. And I'm back tomorrow. I was on with Lionel last night, if you missed that one. Lionel on Musk, Trump, Iran, Diddy. And I'm back with Ryan Macbeth tomorrow on the prospects of World War III. That's going to be an early one at the same time as this one today, 2 p.m. So thanks for tuning in. And if you are in the UK, I hope you're not too sweaty. This is the hottest day in June on record. Well, recent record. We know the globalists don't like to look at the long-term records, so they can say, oh, it's global warming, carbon taxes, let's make money off this.